Good Friday morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great end of the week out there. In this video, I'll be talking about severe weather, a summertime cold front into early next week, and the tropics ramping up in a big way as we start the month of September. Welcome back, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great Friday morning out there. Welcome back to Weather on the Go's weather forecast. What is your ideal temperature, guys? I want to know what your ideal temperature outside is. Is it 80 degrees? Is it 75 degrees? Is it 40 degrees? Or is it below zero? I want to know your ideal temperature outside, so definitely comment down below in the comments. Looking ahead here at your temperatures today, this afternoon, we have much of those 80-degree temperatures in upper 70s across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes and parts of interior New England as we head into this afternoon. We do have heat building across the central and southern plains, places like Kansas, all the way down into Oklahoma and North Texas will be in the lower to upper 90s as we head into this afternoon. Some heat lingering across the western United States as well, from Washington all the way down to California, with widespread 90s and 100s there this afternoon as well. But like I did mention, we have severe weather making another appearance across the Northeast as we head into later on today. Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk across portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, eastern New York, as well as Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island as we head into later on today, with even a marginal risk extending farther back here towards portions of western New York, northeastern Pennsylvania, into northern New Jersey, and on up into portions of Maine as we head into later on today, and also a marginal risk across the western Dakotas, eastern Montana, and northeastern Wyoming. Looking at the individual hazards here today, we do have wind gusts that could be up to around 60, perhaps 70 miles per hour across portions of the Northeast, across the Boston area, getting down toward Hartford, Connecticut, and then up there towards portions of Rhode Island and even, Vermont, New Hampshire, eastern New York as we head towards later today. And even kind of a lower end threat for some hail across portions of the Northeast, maybe up to around quarter, maybe $half size hail later on today. There also is a 2% chance of tornado, so an isolated tornado or two cannot be ruled out across the I-95 corridor from Boston all the way down towards Hartford, Connecticut there, eastern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, even far southern Maine. We could have kind of an isolated weak tornado later on today. So definitely want to keep a heads up later on today to the weather forecast if you live across these areas. And the reason why we're seeing this is we have a cold front moving through across the southern Great Lakes and entering into New England as we head into the peak daytime heating as we head into this afternoon. That will be the driving force for lift across this area as we head towards that 3, 4, 5 o'clock time frame late this afternoon, prime heating for some severe weather. So let's kind of talk about the setup out there. We got kind of mid-60 dew points advecting northward across portions of New England as we head towards the late afternoon hours here for your Friday, and that will provide the fuel and some of this instability. The mixed layer cape, which is convective available potential energy, this thunderstorm fuel, if you will be not off the charts by any means, but we're still seeing some values up around 1,000 to perhaps 1,500 here up across portions of New England. And with some of the wind shear overlapping this environment, we certainly could see some scattered showers and storms that could become severe from time to time across that, especially that slight risk zone I was showing you across New England. So let's time this out what the radar could look like later on today. This is this morning, late morning time frame, 10, 11 o'clock, and you can definitely see some isolated to widely scattered showers and storms across Vermont, New Hampshire, getting down to eastern New York here during that time. Even some scattered showers and storms back toward portions of Toronto, getting up toward Montreal. Mainly just some stratiform rain up in those areas with some rumbles of thunder. But we're going to be kind of looking for that daytime heating later this afternoon to get things moving here along with the severe weather potential. Scattered supercells will be possible to develop across the area as we get into that 2, 3, 4 o'clock time frame across much of the Northeast, even in that marginal risk zone here as we head toward late afternoon. But even as we get towards the early evening, we'll see a couple of storms around, especially out toward Cape Cod, Boston, getting down to Rhode Island and eastern Connecticut as we head towards 7, 8, 9 o'clock time frame here this evening. But we'll start to shut off the severe weather threat from west to east as that cold front moves through, and as we kind of lose the instability. You can see as we get towards the early and mid-evening hours, the instability really starts to decrease in intensity, and so that means the severe weather coverage will decrease very substantially as we kind of move into the evening and overnight hours into your Saturday morning as well. Concerning the rainfall amounts across the Northeast, some decent rainfall is on the way. That's some good news across these areas that have been drought-stricken across Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, up in some of these areas. some widespread half-inch to an inch of rain could be expected, maybe a little bit more, up to near an inch and a half across portions there near Connecticut and Massachusetts borders. So definitely could be seeing some beneficial rains there. Across the Gulf Coast, some scattered showers and storms with maybe some heavier rainfall down near New Orleans, getting up there toward Jackson, Mississippi, and then over there towards Pensacola, Florida. Some of these areas could be averaging around a quarter to half an inch of rain later on today as well. And again, some rainfall across those monsoon areas and the upper Midwest here, with another kind of disturbance moving through the Dakotas into portions of Minnesota later on today as well. So let's kind of zoom this out as we get into the Saturday time frame here early this weekend. We'll start to see the jet stream start to take on a more of a chaotic motion here across the upper levels of the atmosphere. This is the 250 millibar layer. You can definitely see starting to see a trough develop across portions of the Aleutian Islands. That will continue to deepen as we get into late this weekend. But what I want to kind of turn your attention to is a trough starting to develop across the Pacific Northwest, and then down here towards British Columbia and southern portions of Alberta. That will start to deepen as well and push toward the east, toward the northern plains and upper Midwest. As we head into that Sunday time frame, you can definitely see that trough really deepens there across portions of the North Pacific into the Aleutian Islands, which will also deepen this jet stream, and with another trough kind of developing with a low pressure system across portions of the northern plains and upper Midwest as we get into the late weekend time frame. And extending from that low pressure system will actually be a cold front as we get into early next week, and that will really take a shape here of kind of a trough as we get into the upper Great Lakes into Monday early next week. So definitely going to be watching the potential for more heavy rainfall and potentially some stronger storms. We'll watch that here as we get into early next week. But concerning the temperatures as we get into tomorrow here for your Saturday, widespread upper 80s to lower 90s pretty much all across the board here, from the northern plains, upper Midwest, all the way down toward the Missouri Ozarks here. Just some typical summertime weather. We will heat up a little bit more into your Sunday afternoon with more temperatures in the middle and upper 90s, maybe touching close to 100 across central and western Kansas as we head into Sunday afternoon. Some of those 90s spreading eastward toward the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys for Sunday as well. And even as we get into Monday with more of that cold front making progress across the upper Midwest, we'll start to cool off underneath that trough across portions, especially the Arrowhead of Minnesota might be struggling to reach 70 degrees as we head into Monday. And again, some of these showers and storms will kind of cool off your temperatures as well across these areas. Looking kind of at the precipitation here of what we could expect, some clusters of showers and storms across portions of north central Minnesota, the eastern Dakotas, and maybe down there towards the central plains into western Kansas here. As we get into Saturday afternoon, peak daytime heating, a couple of these storms I wouldn't be surprised to see some quarter size hail or a 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gust. Certainly probably not an organized severe weather potential, but we'll continue to keep an eye on it for Saturday. Same thing as we head into Sunday, a couple of isolated stronger storms, but the more kind of impressive feature with this is going to be more of heavy rainfall and the cooler temperatures as we head into Sunday, as that progresses eastward toward Iowa, Wisconsin, northwestern Illinois, southeastern Minnesota, all the way down toward Lincoln, Nebraska, the Kansas City area, perhaps all the way down toward the Red River there as we get into Sunday. And that just continues to mature with the low pressure system across the upper Great Lakes as we head into Monday. With a cold frontal boundary, you can kind of make out where that is as we head into portions of Monday afternoon across downstate Illinois, Indiana, southern portions there of Missouri, all the way down to the Red River here into North Texas. Again, still need some rainfall in North Texas, and it looks like we may get some as we head into early on your Monday. Again, as we move into Tuesday, the cold front will continue to progress from west to east across the Ohio Valley, much of the southeast, bringing more rainfall, potentially some heavy rainfall and more isolated strong to severe storms across these areas here, from the southern Great Lakes all the way to the Gulf Coast on your Tuesday. That will continue to progress to the south and east here with more heavy rainfall here across the Gulf Coast and Florida as we move into your middle of the week here time frame, and which actually finish off the month of August here on your Wednesday, August 31st, with some refreshing air and some high pressure starting to build in back up there toward the northern plains and upper Midwest by the middle of next week. Now, as we get into early August, the longer range pattern does favor the continuation here of the trough across portions there of the southern United States with the cooler temperatures. A lot of these cold fronts will be dropping down toward Texas and the Gulf Coast, bringing some unsettled weather with rainfall and thunderstorms. Meanwhile, across the western United States, from the Rockies on west toward the Pacific Northwest, California, and kind of inching its way over top of this kind of cooler anomalies with the temperatures there across the upper Midwest, we're going to see that ridge. That ridge is going to be in place during the September 2nd through the 8th time frame as well. Looking at the precipitation anomalies, still above average across much of especially central Texas, so definitely some beneficial rainfall here. That is some definitely, some good news. Still some heavy rainfall we got to watch out for across the Tennessee Valley and much of the southeast during that period, really that first week in September. But really the inactive jet stream is going to be to the north. We're going to have kind of a lull in the activity for the most part across portions of the northern U.S. from the Intermountain West eastward toward the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and New England during that first week there in September. And speaking of the drought, this is the newest drought monitor, just came out here on your Thursday yesterday, and there has been some very significant improvements, thankfully, across North Texas along the Red River there, where they saw 15 inches of rainfall several days ago there in Dallas. Still recovering from some of that rainfall with the street flooding there. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of improvement across these areas, and largely, really, if you look at the map here across portions of Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico have improved drastically here from the red shaded colors. That is an extreme drought. The maroon reds are actually the worst drought category. That's exceptional drought. We're really not seeing that much into Arizona, New Mexico, or Colorado, so that's some good news. Still some work to do out west here and across portions of Utah, Nevada, and California, and even Oregon, but progress is being made. Good news, we are seeing that rainfall across the northeast to help out near the Boston area. They're actually in an extreme drought here, one level down from the worst drought category on here, which is an exceptional drought, so definitely could use some rain there. Looks like we'll get some later on today. We just don't need the severe weather, so hopefully we can get some drenching rains across those areas later on today. Now, I did want to bring this up again. This is the La Nina forecast here and what we've kind of seen with the observations of the La Nina the past several weeks. Going all the way back to the middle of July, we've been really kind of on a free fall, dropping like a rock here with the La Nina status. In the past couple of days, we've actually started to make a little bit of a decrease in the La Nina status as well. We're in firmly a moderate La Nina now, but it really hasn't strengthened. If anything, it's actually started to weaken just slightly over the last few days, but still firmly, like I said, in that moderate La Nina status. And if you kind of look at the equatorial Pacific here, we still have those well below normal temperature anomalies from the western coast there of the South America westward across the equator. That would be the La Nina with the cooler temperature anomalies. And if you look at the past 7-day change, we really don't have those strong, dark blue bursts of those cooler waters like we did show you, a couple of weeks ago. So that does mean it's kind of leveling off a little bit, maybe weakening slightly, but we still have to watch out for the fall months as this could strengthen a little bit further as we get here into September and October and even November. So we'll continue to watch that, guys. I do think that we may still get into strong La Nina status as we get towards the peak of the hurricane season and really as we get towards the peak of fall towards that September, October, November timeframe as well. Speaking of the hurricane season, we're actually looking here. The National Hurricane Center is giving still 2 areas of interest across the Caribbean, from the central and western Caribbean there and back across the open waters of the southern Atlantic Ocean. Both of these have around a 20% chance of development over the next 2 to 5 days. The one of interest to the U.S. mainly right now is across the central portions of the Caribbean over the next few days. We'll have to watch. Moving up there toward the Yucatan Peninsula there and towards portions of the Central Americas. We'll continue to watch that in the next few days. If you look at the satellite imagery, it is fighting off some dry air right now here across the eastern Caribbean and the Windward Islands as it pushes to the west. So it really still has to fight through that dry air to kind of achieve its goal of becoming a tropical storm. And right now it's having some trouble, so we'll continue to keep an eye on that, but a very much robust system developing across portions here of the southern and southeastern Atlantic basin, which has much more moisture to work with it, less wind shear, and also, like I said, it has more of a steering current that pushes this toward the Windward Islands. So this one may become more of a factor potentially if we can, keep that dry air out of place for this storm as it kind of pushes toward the west. Right now, it's not a tropical storm or anything, but I do think this could develop into a depression here within the next couple of days. It's certainly showing signs of strengthening on the satellite imagery. And as we look at later this afternoon, we still got some of that moisture. Like I said, we got the deeper moisture with that system farther out here coming off of Africa, still well over the open water, so it still has quite a ways to go to even reach the Lesser Antilles. But Looking at the system across the area right now near the Lesser Antilles into the Eastern Caribbean, like I said, we still have these brown shaded anomalies here. That is actually the drier air. The green is actually the moist air, and it's fighting the dry air right now. It'll continue to push to the west, but if it can push into the Western Caribbean or the Southern Gulf, it is game on for the potential of a strengthening system that could become a tropical storm potentially as we move toward the Yucatan Peninsula into the Southern Gulf and maybe even the Bay of Campeche as we kind of move toward early next week. So we'll continue to watch that system very closely. But as we move toward the late time frame in the weekend, I'm more concerned about this system maybe developing into a tropical depression across the areas here in the southern Atlantic basin, heading towards the Lesser Antilles, but still quite a ways away even as we get into Sunday. So we'll continue to watch these systems very closely as we get a little bit closer in time toward the late weekend into early next week. But looking like we've showed you guys for many times now, the Atlantic hurricane season, we are approaching the peak time frame climatologically for the most active weather with tropical storms, hurricanes, and even major hurricanes about the second week or so here in September, around that September 9th, 10th, 11th time frame. That's really kind of the peak of the hurricane season, and we're really climbing that ladder. We're almost to the top here of that ladder right now, and it looks like here we're going to be trending that way in a big way here. I'll show you that just now. This is the GFS. This is the operational GFS model, and as we get into September 1st, as we turn the book here from August to September, it is showing a 996 millibar across low pressure system across the Western Caribbean. Now that would be the system we're watching now across the Eastern Caribbean. So like I said, the GFS is going all out with the tropical storm, maybe a low-end hurricane across this area as we get in toward the first couple of days of September. So that's why we got to watch that system. But it also has a couple of these systems developing across portions of the, off the African coast into the southern Atlantic basin. We'll have to watch as we get into later on Thursday time frame in September 1st. Even as we get in towards the following weekend, toward that September 3rd, 4th time frame, the GFS is actually producing a rather robust hurricane across portions of the Central Gulf, which is concerning because we have all those warmer anomalies in the Gulf of Mexico. It's actually showing a 953 millibar low. It's not important that the low pressure system right now, the strength of it, but it is showing you what this model really is showing you is that the trend is there, that, it's going to be getting rather active here as we get into early September here in a big way, very much closer to the U.S. than it has been all hurricane season long. So we'll definitely continue to watch that. And looking at this with the GFS, this system would have a lot of moisture to work with as we get into that time frame. So we'll continue to watch that and just look at the parade of systems all the way back to the African coast here. So definitely, if we don't see a tropical storm or hurricane off the first system, many more opportunities lie ahead as we get into early September here for the potential for more hurricanes. Looking, quickly glancing at the European forecast model, the ECMWF, you can definitely see has the flavor of a tropical storm or hurricane moving towards the U.S., maybe even across, again, another system behind that across portions of the southern Atlantic basin. So definitely a parade of storms possible. And even the GEM or even the CMC, the Canadian model, showing that same flavor with a parade of storms lining up all the way from the southern Atlantic basin, the Eastern Caribbean, all the way back to the African coast. So our main operational and deterministic models are definitely, hinting at, this is getting a lot more agreement now. And I really do think as we get into that first week in September, it is going to be game on for the hurricane season, guys. And this is what we've been preparing for. So definitely watch out for that. Even across the East Coast, the Gulf Coast, and including Florida, and even the Caribbean, you definitely want to be on high alert into early September. And just the reason why, just look at all the warmer Gulf of Mexico moisture here and all of the heat content here with the sea surface temperatures across this area. The Yucatan Peninsula, the Bay of Campeche, near portions of the Caribbean, just all of the Western Atlantic starting to really heat up in a big way across these areas. So definitely something to watch as well. In the Gulf of Mexico, right off the western coast of Florida, the Western Caribbean, much of the Gulf of Mexico there towards the eastern coast there of Mexico itself, has, sea surface temperatures 25 to even 30 degrees Celsius. So definitely would be supportive of some hurricanes. And we will keep you covered here on Weather on the Go. It's all your weather coverage, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I did want to give you kind of a longer video to kind of get you prepared for the hurricane season coming up here. It's going to be starting off and sparking off in a big way. So definitely, heed all of the warnings, watch all of the weather forecasts. I'll keep you covered through the next several days to keep you ahead of all the storms out there. So do remember to like the video down below, give me a thumbs up, leave any of your comments, questions, and concerns below, even my question concerning what is your ideal temperature. Let me know down below in the comments. And most importantly, guys, do subscribe to the YouTube channel. I definitely appreciate all the new subscribers out there as always. Thank you guys so much, and I definitely appreciate it. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great Friday, great weekend, and I'll see you all in the next video.